Okay, today I'm going to go over some basic Photoshop um, skills. In doing so, I found this image. Let me open it up here. Um, the original one. So my son was at Santa Cruz and he took this photo, and I thought, wow, what a great image that we could use to make a poster. So I'm going to go over kind of some Photoshop techniques using this image, and I'm going to want you to use the image. Basically, I'm looking to uh, show you some typography examples, as well as some blending modes, as well as some gradients, and taking those skills and putting it together into some kind of image with the word Santa Cruz. You can use the word California if you want, or not, but here's some examples. I had this one. I don't really like the typography, but it was kind of drippy looking. There's some techniques I want to show in what I did with this text, and in the sky. Again, here's the original. You have this big white area here, kind of foggy looking, and then you have these really high contrast people here, which I thought made a really excellent sort of look. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about maybe manipulating this image a little bit before I put any text on there. One example I did was, of course, added a color to the image, and you can see I actually have a color layer right here. If we turn off all the other layers, you can see it's basically a gradient. So that gradient then is blended with the background. So I'm going to show sort of techniques like that. So I'm going to continue with that kind of idea of the gradient in the background. Now, before I start, I'm going to actually adjust this a little bit by using the and let me duplicate this real quick before I mess up my original. Let's call it Santa Cruz 3. And so I'm going to manipulate the sky a little bit and add a little bit more contrast. Right now, there's not a lot of contrast. In fact, it's probably better it doesn't have contrast, because down here is nice and solid color here. But probably one way to adjust, of course, is under image adjustments, and you have your fabulous options here. Some of them you might want to use, of course, is the levels, which allows you to see the histogram, which is basically a chart of the whites and blacks, and I can reduce this so the sky comes in a little bit more by taking the center triangle, of course, and moving it to the right, which will make that more, as you can see if I do before and after, brings a little bit more out of the sky there, but I'm losing some of the beach now. Down here was nice contrast between the water and the mountain, so maybe that's not the best way to go. Or, but it was an idea. You can see I added some contrast, but I don't want to lose the contrast that I have over here, so I'm not going to use that one. How about we try the curves? The curves gives you, again, a line that has the lights on one side and the darks on the other, and you can adjust just parts of an area, and that might help a little bit. I still have some contrast here, but I did get a little bit more of the sky in. There we go. I kind of like that contrast there. So the curves is a little bit better, and so I'm going to go with that. So give me a little bit more contrast. In fact, usually what I do is I do that on a duplicate. So if you want to duplicate any layer inside of Photoshop, if you take the layer, again, I have layers open mostly here, and if you drag the layer onto the little triangle next to a trash can, it will duplicate it. That way I'm working on a copy of the original background. That way, if you want to go back to the original, you can always just delete one layer and, hey, I'm back to the original. So let's look at, I like this example here with the colored background here with the gradient, so that's the one I'm going to go over. To do that, I'm going to make a new layer. Again, next to the trash can, there is a new layer option. If I click on that, it makes a new layer. And what I'm going to do is put a gradient in there. Again, you have the gradient tool right here inside of the toolbar here. If I click on there, I was doing red to white. I don't really like that. I'm going to actually try and do a different color here. I'm going to actually try and go back to blue. And so you click on the little triangle that's below the gradient line there, will give you the color option. And I'm going to go and suck up maybe the blue background color. Ooh, that's a little dark. I might kind of cheat a little bit and make that a little brighter. So you can get an eyedropper out here and actually select the color from the sky, maybe, if you want. I want to get kind of the same ratio of color, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm going to manipulate that a little bit, make it a little brighter. And so that's okay. I'm going to go from blue to white, and I'm going to hit OK. And I'm just going to drag straight down. So I made a gradient, and I'm going to drag straight down. Now, of course, it covers the whole thing, and you're like, wow, it covered the whole thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend it. And to blend this layer with the background, I'm going to use the blending modes. And again, I've been showing some of these blending modes throughout the semester, and I use them a lot, as you can tell. And if I come over here, I'm going to use the one multiply this time. And what it does then is it adds the color to the background there. It's kind of like taking the layer and blending it with the one underneath it. And of course the black and the contrast are still there. And so the blending mode now, the sky has a lot more blue up here that it didn't have before. And that's okay if it's dark over here. I don't mind it being dark over there. It is kind of dark overall, though. It would be nice if there was a little bit more contrast. So I'd like the blending mode, but I might even reduce it so it's not so dramatic, the blending mode, by taking layer 1 and actually changing the opacity a little bit. There we go. Maybe it's a little bit too much. There we go. Just want a little bit more blue in the sky. And so you can see if I use the eyeball, turn it off and on, off and on. The white is such a nice white, though. I just really like that white, and because it really makes these people stand out. So yeah, I'm gonna actually reduce that a little bit more. There we go. So now I have somewhat, yeah, just a little blue in the sky, just to give it some color, so it's not just so white. Okay, let's get to some of the typography. And there's all kinds of different things that you can do. Actually, let me finish the background a little bit. Another thing that I thought about doing was actually adding a line that goes along the people, so it stands out a little bit more, even more. Let's just try that once. So I want to add a line that goes along the beach here, just to see how that might look to make these people even stand out more, or just add a contrast. So I'm going to duplicate this background again. Just so I can have, now I have 3 of them. That's okay, you can have as many as you want, as long as you have a lot more RAM, because you can see every time I do that I'm at 208 megabytes right now, so whoosh, it's a lot. I'm going to select the, using the Magic Wand tool, which selects color, it selects whatever pixel you click on. The tolerance will, more pixels that are closer to the pixel you click on, you can increase the tolerance or reduce it. I'm just going to leave it at 40. I don't know, it's probably the same as it was before. If I click on it, it selects the black area. As you can see, it selects the entire, all the people and all the stuff in there. And for this example, let's just add a little stroke. Again, you have a stroke option here. By hitting stroke, it's under the effects window right here, effects. And if I hit stroke, it's going to do the whole thing. That's not what I want. I want to stroke just the selected area. I think it's under select here. Can I add a stroke here? No, I've done this before. Let me see. Add a line to that. Maybe I can't remember how to do that. Let's move on. I swear I thought I could just stroke this selected area. I know how to do it. Let me pause and see if I remember. Okay, now I remember where the stroke is. So I'm going to put a line that kind of goes all the way along the outside of this silhouette that I have here to kind of add a little bit more contrast to it, so it stands out from the background a little bit more. And to do that, so after I selected it, using the Magic Wand, I go underneath the image, under Edit, Stroke. Right here. You can actually change the color if you don't want black by using fill. It'll fill that in. But I really want to just add a line. I like the black, so I'm going to go stroke. And I just put 10 in there because there's a lot of pixels in this image. And I'm going to say white and then outside. And so again, this is a stroke. It's going to stroke whatever you have selected. In this case, I have the black part selected. If I hit OK, and I'm going to deselect here, you can see the line that goes along the edge here. If we zoom in, you can see I just added a white line around the entire outside of my thing to give it a lot more contrast. So you can see they stand out a lot more, especially if you have a color background. Right now I just have a plain background there. So that's kind of a stroke. And then let's put in some typography. I'm going to go above my layer here, and I'm going to use my text tool, and I'm going to click in and type in Santa Cruz. And so, you know, what I'm looking for you to do is try all kinds of different typography. I found this one called American Captain. I don't know, of course, I've downloaded a bunch of different fonts from dafont.com. As you can see, this wouldn't be very good. So choose an appropriate one. I thought this American Captain was kind of good. I don't know, find one that you think works well with Santa Cruz. This big bold works pretty good. And manipulate the text so it fits well. You know, you might even want to do a nice big thick font. You know, try different fonts. I don't like the chalk duster. Try something that matches. Actually, this one might not be too bad. And again, I tend not to try to scale it, but I'm doing it anyways. I'm using the Move tool, and I am manipulating my text right here using the Move tool. When you're done manipulating the text, you can click on the Move tool and apply the transform. So that's not too bad. I got this kind of chalky kind of look to it. Kind of goes well with the little white line that goes around the outside there. And so, you know, that one was interesting. I'm not really sure if I like that one, but that was a good idea. I'd probably make it a little smaller, and then so it's not dominating so much, and then maybe add a California text. And probably not use the same font for that. Use a different font. You want this to be readable. Oosh, that was horrible. The American Captain, I kind of like that one. I think it goes well with California. There we go. Kind of line it up. And so that's not a bad thing. I don't like this chalk, though. I really don't. But it was a good idea. Just trying things, you know. You got to keep trying many different things and see what's working and what's not working. So let's talk about now. Let's talk about some typography manipulations with the FX window right here. So let's go back to changing this font. I'm going to highlight that font, and I'm going to go back to. I kind of like that American Captain. It works well. It's kind of bold. It has a nice sort of cruise to it. I like the word cruise with this. So let's talk about different ways that we might manipulate this text. And that's the main reason why I wanted to make this video, is I want you to work on typography and different typography effects. And so again, right here is the effects. So I have my Santa Cruz text highlighted here. If I click on the effects here, I can go down to these different options. I'm actually going to go with the not outer glow, the stroke here. And I'm going to make a white stroke, kind of the same stroke that I had for the outline of the text here, or outline of the hill here. Something like that. Again, I'm going to do just stroke. It says inside, I might say outside. Whoosh, no, definitely not. Inside. Let's say center. How about that? Center. And then I'm going to stick with the white. I'm going to hit OK. Then what you can do though is there's a fill option here in the layers window where I'm going to actually get rid of the inside of the font there. I'm going to get rid of that. So it's just a stroke like that, sort of how it falls with the same background of the background here, or of the silhouette of the hills here. So maybe something like that. Again, there's a fill here. If you never used it, this fill is great for removing the inside color of an object. And of course, if you stroke the outside will stay there. And so, you know, you could do that with a graphic, if you want to just have a, let's say that you made an icon and you didn't want the inside color, but you just wanted the outline of the icon. This is how I would do it. I would stroke it and then give it a fill here. And you can do that with a SVG file or a vector graphic just as well, like that. So think about that. If you don't want that to be completely there, instead of doing that, I might just change the color of the text. That's what I might do. Instead of using the fill there, I might just change the color. There we go. And then maybe just choose like the dark blue here. And instead of going completely black, that's a little bit better. At least it stands out. You have a little bit of blue in there. Yeah, it seems like everything's so blue. So think about contrast and so on. I don't like that. I'm going to turn that up just a little bit. And it's nice dark blue, but let's do a little bit brighter. There we go. How about that? There we go. That's much better. A little bit of blue. Not sure if I like all caps letters. I know this font is all cap. You might want to try using lowercase letters. So maybe, oh, I guess this font doesn't have any lowercase letters. So it doesn't really matter. Can't use lowercase letters with this font. So you might want to do that. Again, what I'm looking for you to do is try some of these effects here. Last thing I'm going to show is drop shadow. I think one of the biggest challenges that people have is they just use the default drop shadow, but the drop shadow can be used in many different ways, and it's probably not going to work well with this, but let's just show it to you anyways. In fact, let's do it to the California text, and let's zoom in so we can see what I'm talking about. So a normal drop shadow, if you click on there, if you go to where it says drop shadow, a normal drop shadow is going to be black. It's going to say multiply, and it's going to be black color like that. And of course, you're not going to see that on a black background. And so what I've done, at least for this example, and is use the normal for the blending mode under drop shadow, and then change the color. Kind of using, oh, maybe we should just use this color that we have in here. There we go. Changing the color there, and so you can see that now you can see the drop shadow. So again, normal, so it shows up, and then of course there's opacity, there's distance away from the text. You know, you can do something like that if you want really far away. So it gives you that. Of course, you got blending mode, and you can change the angle that you want it to be at. And so you can really use that as a way. In fact, let's do a really bright one for right now so you can see it. And then let's go, and I know this doesn't look right, but I'm just trying to show you there's some effects here. Try drop shadow, normal, and changing the color here. And then of course, remember the fill before? You can actually get rid of the entire white part and just see the silhouette there. Well, that doesn't show up though. Well, we could put a stroke on there. And make it a little bit smaller. It's pretty thick. There we go. And then get rid of the fill. How about that? So you got some. So try all kinds of different font effects. Try the blending mode of the background like this by putting a solid gradient and then blending it with the background. You don't have to do the stroke outline here. I was just showing you a technique to make it stand out. And I really don't like the sky in this one. I kind of like the sky in my red one. There we go. There's the red effect there. That one's quite nice. So I'm going to give you this file, and I want you to put some text in there, manipulate the background, and we'll call this a bonus lesson.